Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are talking about the Malocchio, or the evil eye, which specifically the Italian or the Italian American version. And this word translates to bad eye, or I've also seen overlook. And this may come up again in another video that I intend to do eventually on the evil eye in general. There's a number of traditions, whether it's from the Italians, the Greeks, from the Turkish, the Jewish traditions, Islamic traditions. It is a phenomenon that has spanned from 5000 BC to today. And there are a myriad of traditions across continents. And if you yourself are Italian or Italian American and you're listening to the information I've gotten it from three books. The Evil Eye by Antonio Pagliarulo. I knew someone whose last name was Pagliaro, so I had to kind of stop for a second. Italian Folk Magic by Mary Grace Fahrun. Oops. And then Raven Gramassi's Italian Witchcraft, as well as some of um, my own experiences with it. But if you're listening to this and like doesn't sound right to you, or you're like, well, that's not how my family does it, or that's not how I was taught to do it. Though, depending on the province your family's from, depending on the town your family's from, everyone does it a little bit different. The prayers are different, the associations are different, and that's fine. There's no right or wrong way to do it. We were all brought up on this and we understand it. It's just different method, different strokes for different folks, different methods. You will find probably some similarities among traditions, but don't worry about it. If you want, leave in the comments how your family copes with it, or what you do to protect against it. What's your favorite protection symbols, stuff like that. So, what is the evil eye actually? No one knows really where it originated, how it started, but it is agreed that it goes back a long time. And many religions are quick to kind of dismiss it as superstition or as witchcraft. It isn't. It is a folk tradition that exists and is sometimes mentioned in actual religious texts and dogma. But the experience of the people that have it, I'm reading off notes. I don't know why I type up scripts because I don't really read them, I just wing it. But this is what we're going to do. The experience of these people have nothing to do with religion, and no one need to have a connection to a particular spiritual path or identity to believe in the eye. In fact, many people who don't identify with any kind of spiritual association have experienced this, and they just know what it is because we know it's real. And the thing is, emotion is energy, and energy doesn't disappear, it just changes form. So think of generally the eye is associated with more negative emotions: jealousy, envy, anger, greed, and that is someone is directing it at you for whatever reason. It's basically you have an energetic arrow that's looking for a target or is specifically directed at someone. And we all have the ability to cast this. It's not something that requires any kind of ritual. It doesn't require any magic words. It can just happen. Um, because at some time or another, all of us have experienced all of those emotions: envy, greed, hatred, anger, resentment, whatever it is. And so, they're just, it just bottles up inside. Sometimes, or it could be, I don't know. When I was reading some of the stuff, I don't know where heartache falls on this. Because I feel like you will find this connected to obviously a lot of big life events: buying a house, buying a car, getting engaged, getting married, having a baby. If someone feels like they will never have that thing, as much as they may love you, as much as they may want what's best for you, they're happy for you, some part of them is still breaking inside. So I don't know. Like, I am curious if that is a form of envy and incidentally will accidentally come out this way, or if it then becomes more self imposed. But that's neither here nor there. Those feelings have a solid but silent trajectory, and when that trajectory finds its target, the quiet curse is unleashed. Science may tell us that energy does not shoot from the eye and touch the environment in our field of vision, yet we have all felt another person's gaze beaming into us. Most of us have had the experience of, having someone catching us staring at them. Your eyes lock across a crowded room. Usually that inference is used for instances of lust or love or attraction. It can also be for instances of envy or um, admiration, but a more negative form of admiration, resentment. Beware the green-eyed monster, ladies and gentlemen. And these instances lend credence to the theory that our eyes may be capable of emitting energy. The eyes are considered the window to the soul. The study of quantum mechanics, energy fields, and emerging evidence proves that the interconnectedness of objects, even at a minimum level, does not seem far-fetched. What exactly is the Malocchio specifically? So the Malocchio is a belief that a look or a glance from one person can send misfortune or physical symptoms to a person being looked at. It is generally thought to be cast by a look from another person with envy when that person is thought to be in a state of spiritual illness. And there are 3 different ways to kind of cast this, so to speak. And when they say spiritual illness, it could be a state of weakness. It could be someone's just in a really low vibration. um, Not self-aware is another way of looking at it. um, People that are just have held on to bitterness, to a lot of those low vibing emotions, the bitterness, the envy, the hatred, that victim mentality. How come them and not me? I want that. Why can't I have it? Why doesn't my person do that for me? They're so lucky they get those kinds of thought patterns. um, Create those really low vibing emotions. And I feel like we've all been there at some point. Well, even the most enlightened people sometimes just have a bad day. But here are the 3 ways it can happen, or that you can cast it. The first is usually accompanied by praise. There are sweet words, there's congratulations, there's accolades, there's compliments, but those compliments are laced with an undercurrent of ill will. So someone may look at you and smile, but it's arsenic and saccharin, basically. They're sickeningly sweet, but they're wishing you the worst at the same time. And that is one of the instances of how this can be cast. So it's a little bit of, some might say it's a kind of a cowardly way to do it. It's a little bit backhanded and backstabby to do it this way, but it can very well happen. The second way is, though this person doesn't wish you well. There is no doubt in your mind that they have the worst intentions for you. They will make it known that they wish you ill, and they'll tell you straight to your face, or however else, maybe behind your back. But it is not kindness that this is coming from. None of this really comes from kindness, but it won't be sugar coated. The third, and what is probably, I think, the most common method, I think Mary Grace touched on this in her book. I don't remember if Raven did. Antonio does in his, but I don't know if he says it's the most common. I can't remember now, and I just looked at the notes. People do it unintentionally. It's not coming from this place of resentment. It's not coming from this buried well of anger and rage. It's spontaneous reaction, basically. It's, oh wow, I wish I could have something like that, and there it is. Or, oh wow, that's really cool. Just be, it. One of the examples that came up was, say somebody gets a new motorcycle and you bring it, you're showing it off to your friends in a restaurant, or it's right there through the window, and people are like, oh, it's really cool, just be really careful, we don't want anything bad to happen to you. And then the waiter comes over and goes, oh wow, that's a really cool bike, that's really expensive, they're kind of dangerous, and has now unintentionally wished you ill. Like, it's all, a lot of times it's kind of in the wording, it's the backhanded compliments, the misspeaks, the Freudian, oh no, not misspeaks, Freudian slips. It's the backhanded compliments and the Freudian slips where this comes out. Because someone's not consciously aware of what they have just done. It is unintentional. So, what was really interesting is that I read the Italian folk magic like a couple years ago. So I had notes written down from like 2022. This book I just like skimmed through recently. I read bits and pieces to fit what I was kind of looking for, because I wanted to specifically focus on the Malocchio and the Italian traditions, not not drift off into other traditions. And um, the author talks about his mother receiving, I think, like an invitation to a baby shower, and not understanding why anyone would have have a baby shower before the baby's born, because that's just inviting, you're flirting with danger in that respect of, what if something happens and someone wishes ill upon mother and child. And it's really interesting because I hadn't thought of that, but I do know in my own family tradition, and I've heard this spoken quite often among people that I know that have children, and we'll take them out. And my mother goes, they brought the baby out before it was baptized? What's the matter with them? For my parents or my mother, bringing the baby out before the baby's baptized is usually the bigger issue. It's not the baby shower. It's the baby's got no spiritual protection. They haven't been baptized. Why are you putting this child in harm's way before they've been baptized? Every family's got a little bit of a different quirk, because that was an old tradition. You did not take the child out in public. Maybe you would see family, but you wouldn't really go out diddy bopping around until that baby was baptized. And it is kind of funny because every now and then she'll slip up and say something. And um it's also really funny because this is one of those things that I think in the Italian American community, I've seen it with my dad. I don't know about any of my uncles and cousins. They don't believe in it until they do. Because my father does not believe in this per se. However, I can remember him coming home, calling up my mother and being like, you need to call mom and have her do the eyes, meeting my grandmother at the time. He's like, I think I got him, call up mom and have her do them. And sure enough, he would have them. So he doesn't believe in it until he does. But I feel like there's probably a lot of people that are like that. Anyway, so what are some of the symptoms? They're generally mild to moderate. The most common symptom is a severe headache, which is usually centered behind the eyes, that prevents a person from going about their regular routine. They may also be extremely tired and groggy without a reasonable cause. Read in here also foggy and unfocused, um, to kind of go along with the groggy part, because sometimes you just don't feel like yourself. You feel kind of off. Um, you can't sleep is another one. I don't know if I have that in here. There may be swelling of one or both eyes, loss of focus and concentration, low moods, feeling of despair, of the obsessive thoughts on a specific thing or person, feelings of anxiousness and fearfulness for no apparent reason. Other symptoms might be a mild streak of bad luck, unusual clumsiness, in which objects seem to fly out of your hands and crash on the floor. Objects break in your hands without any force. Objects can also be affected. So the thing is, there is some that think that this is only attached to us as humans. It's not. Your things can also be affected. Your homes, your automobiles, your jewelry, your clothing, and basically any object to which you hold dear. And what generally happens is it breaks. Something goes wrong. Something breaks down. Something may get ripped, stained, whatever it is. You find that you've just had this run of bad luck centered around this item. And it can unfortunately also affect your pets. So you might find that maybe your pet gets sick. They end up getting hurt. Something happens with them that is kind of unusual. Back in olden times, if say your herd got sick, you had a bunch of cows or sheep that died, or you had illness that ripped through whatever, that would sometimes be blamed on the evil eye. Now, of course, we know better. Like, we know how disease spreads and whatnot, but there can sometimes be that question of where'd it come from? Why now? What happened? So I feel like even with all the scientific things that we know, sometimes there can still be that kind of question mark in the air of, maybe I should do something on the side just to protect everything, protect my assets. So another way it can be cast is out of very strong feelings of love and obsession for an affected person. You may end up dreaming about this person. You also just may not be able to sleep well. I believe I also remember saying you'll see eyes in your sleep. So if you are able to get to sleep and you dream, you might see the eyes of the person that has cast it, or the person that's thinking of you, the person that is obsessed with you. The dreams won't be clear, they may be disjointed, and the caster who will supposedly appear them will ignore the person as they try to interact with them, and it will be either in a normal situation or it might be sexually. I actually have a note here from myself. It's like, I've never had dreams like this, just personally, but I found that the headaches, the fogginess, the clumsiness are more common. I would also say that if you have a problem falling asleep, if you're really restless, if you're waking up constantly throughout the night, that can also be a symptom of it. So it may not be the dreams, it's just your sleep state in general. Okay. So one of the most popular methods, or most common methods that I have found for removing the eyes, is you use a white porcelain bowl. You fill it with water and you drop in some olive oil or vegetable oil. It has to be a liquid oil. Coconut oil will not work for this. And depending on the kind of bottle you use a couple drops, one large blob, whatever, and you drop it into the water and you watch and see what happens. So there are different interpretations about how to do this. The way I was raised is that if it breaks out into sets of 2 or eyes, or if it smears, then the Malocchio is present. Other people have written if the oil drops migrate toward each other and merge, the Malocchio is present. If the oil drops burst and spread out over the surface of the water, appearing to disappear, the Malocchio is present. If nothing happens and the oil drops remain the same, then the illness is natural and the Malocchio is not present. So now, in this book, I believe it was just olive oil and water in a bowl. In this book, he mentions using, I believe, a bay leaf. There's a couple extra things for this method that are added. So depending on how you were taught to do this, there's no right or wrong way to do it. And using your bowl of water with your olive oil, method 1 to cure this is you take 2 knives of any type and start cutting through the water and the oil, basically cutting the eyes, reciting. This is what my family does. This is the way I was taught to do it. For whatever reason, we call on St. Francis. St. Francis, take away this evil eye. And you keep reciting this until they seem to merge back together. Turn on the water in the sink. You throw your olive oil and water mixture down the drain, and you let the water run so that it washes it away. Now, there are different thoughts on this. Some people think that if you recite the prayers in the native tongue, They are more effective than if you recite them in a translation. So in this case, it would be if you recite it in Italian, it's more effective than if you say it in English. My philosophy is whatever is more comfortable to you, however you learned it, however you can say it, that's the version you use. If you never learned it in Italian or your Italian is horrendous and it's easier for you to do it in English, do it in English. Have I tried it for this specific thing? No. I have used different prayers in Latin for house clearings, and I can say that they have elicited a reaction. Yes. Would it have made a difference if it was in English? No, I don't think so. Because I think I've done both. I've used Latin versions of prayers and English versions of prayers for different clearings, and you're going to get a reaction regardless. So, but in this case, do what is easiest and best for you. The second method for our bowl of water, take 2 sewing needles and insert the tip of one needle into the eye of the other, saying, eyes against eyes, and the holes of the eyes, envy cracks and eyes burst. Then drop the needles into the water on top of the oil drops. Next, sprinkle 3 pinches of salt into the water. Take a pair of scissors and jab them into the water 3 times through the oil drops. Take the scissors and cut the air above the bowl 3 times, and then it's broken. I will put the Italian in for you just because I started to say it and realized that I have a glare from the lights around me, and I'm like, how is that pronounced? So, method 3, some people put the bowl on the person's head, others will put the bowl on the table. And this is from Abruzzo, and they will start the cure by first calling upon Saint Michael and essentially setting up a type of protective shell. The shield of Saint Michael the Archangel is above me. The shield of Saint Archangel Michael is below me. The shield of Saint Michael the Archangel is beside me. The shield of Saint Michael Archangel is before me. The shield of Saint Michael the Archangel is behind me. The fire of Saint Michael the Archangel surrounds me and defends me. Amen. And the charm or the prayer for this specific thing is Saint Sisto, throughout the day and throughout the night, drive away from us this dark spirit. In miserable death, tear out, stomp on every eye that seeks to harm. Here, and then here you do this. Here I do the sign of the cross. And in Italian, it's San Sisto, lo spirito tristo, I mala moretti, di giorno e di notti. Tu caccia di questa, tu caccia da noi, tu strappa I calpesta, ogni occhi ce nuoce, qui faccio la croce. And then you take an open scissors and use one point to make the sign of the cross 3 times to cut up the merged or smeared oil. Then take the scissors and cut the air above the bowl 3 times. Put the scissors aside. Add 3 pinches of salt to the bowl of water and recite the following. Holy Monday, Holy Tuesday, Holy Wednesday, Holy Thursday, Holy Friday, Holy Saturday, Easter Sunday, in the name of Christ, the evil eye bursts. So it's Lunedì Santo, Martedì Santo, Mercoledì Santo, Giovedì Santo, Venerdì Santo, Sabato Santo e Domenica di Pasqua, in nome di Cristo, crepa la occhi triste. Then another option, these are all for dip your right thumb into the bowl and using the thumb that make the sign of the cross 3 times on the person's forehead between the eyes, then 3 times on the back of the neck and 3 times over the heart. Empty the bowl on the ground, preferably outside or down the drain. Thank Saint Michael by praying the prayer of Saint Michael. Oh, I think this is all one method? It's been a while since I've looked these notes over. Because that's all for method 3. Method 4, for headaches, those prone to headaches should wear a red headband or a ribbon known as the Fettucci di Sandre Silvestri, or Saint Sylvester's ribbon, wrapped around their head across the forehead and temples. Repeat the following incantation or prayer 3 times. With each repetition, draw an X with the index finger on the afflicted person's forehead. Saint Donato, the headache. Saint Sylvester, the head pain. In the name of God and Saint Mary, in the name of God and all the saints, may the pain go away. So it's this. I don't know what province this is from. I can cut all that out. So it's Sunday Donati lu dolore del cape, Sunday Silvestre la dolore della testi, in nomine de Dide e de Santi Mageri. I don't know what dialect this is, so I apologize if I'm butchering this. In nomine de Dide e tutti li sandi la doloras se la no pozo G. I don't know what dialect that is. I'm not sure. So method 5, this is from my family. You can use a picture. So if, say, the person calls you up and they're not present, you can get, if you have a picture of the person, use a picture. Someone said you can picture them. I think I read in one of the books, you can just picture the person and do this. But my grandmother would use pictures. I think my mother used to use a picture if I was away at school and I called her up. And you hold the picture and you use your right thumb or both thumbs and repeatedly from the forehead to the crown of the head and the back of the head, you make the sign of the cross, reciting St. Francis, take this evil eye away. And if you yawn, it means the evil eye is present but has been removed. That was how I was taught to do it. One thing though is that, so there is a chakra at the back of the skull that you might want to also focus on. It's called the mouth of God. That is also another place where you might find that you are drawn to. It's roughly here on the back of the skull. It's supposed to be a chakra that you need to be very careful with, but it's also a really good place to kind of clear if you think you have the Malocchio. Because the way I would do it, if I do it on myself, I start and then I work my way kind of around my own head when I do it for myself. But that is something that you can add in if you so choose. So how do you protect against this? Well, there is a protection video that I will link you to here that I did, and those methods can help you 100%, because basically what it is it's spiritual protection from any ill will that someone is trying to cast upon you. However, there are long-standing traditions about how to protect yourself, and the most common, and no, it is not a chili pepper, is the cornicello, the corno, or the cornetto. It means whore. It is literally, it's supposed to, I've seen it's supposed to represent the devil horn. It's supposed to represent a bullhorn. Basically, it is one of the most common symbols that you will find against the Malocchio. Sometimes it's done in gold and silver. You may also see them in red coral, which is why people always think it's a chili pepper. And that's what you wear. You wear it in order to protect against the Malocchio. And you can wear it with other jewelry. I've seen people pin it to their bras, pin it to their clothing, wear it on necklaces. I wear mine next to a saint medal. You probably can't see it, but that's okay. But that is probably the most common one that you will see. I am going to read to you from the book, although both authors mention this. The other one is the devil horns. The corno, hold on. Let me find it. Yeah. Mano cornuto is the devil horns. And you can actually find this as a symbol to wear, or you can make the symbol yourself. I remember when I was in elementary school, we had a librarian that said not to do this and aim it up to God because then you're giving God the horns. It's actually okay. It's okay to do this because what you're doing is you're warding off the evil eye. If you think someone is doing it while they're talking to you, you angle your hand down to deflect it. So what you're doing is you kind of got the suspicion someone's trying to wish you ill. By redirecting it down, it's basically deflecting it away from you. Let's see. So it's known as the horn hand. It is closely linked to the cornicello. They're often worn together. Some think that if someone thinks they might fall victim to the Malocchio, they will make this gesture with their right or left hand, saying "Faccio le corna." Sorry, "Faccio le corna." Translation: I make the horns. With the index finger and the little finger pointed upward, the gesture is believed to ward away the evil eye. However, if one thinks the eye has already come upon them, the gesture is inverted. Using both hands, the index and little fingers are pointed down while saying corna or making a tia sound. Historically, scholars hypothesize that the gestures as an image and an apotropaic device may be linked to the lunar goddess or the horned god. Today, the mano cornuto is a popular amulet worn in Italy and Italian communities worldwide. Men are especially obsessive about wearing one as it can counteract impotence, and when pointed upward, the horns are erect. Another one is the mano fico or figa, which now, if I remember correctly, in Mary Grace's book, this was considered the more feminine version. The fig hand is an old protective amulet and gesture used to ward away the evil eye. It's also somewhat sexually charged. The amulet's name derives from the Italian word fica, which, when translated, refers to the female genitalia, specifically the vulva. The theory behind the mano fica is that the obscenity of the image distracts or diverts the evil eye from seeing its target. Here, the eye is directly linked to infertility, especially the ability to cause a man's semen to dry up. The gesture and the amulet can be tied to the Romans, who saw the fig as a symbol of a woman's erotic prowess and her fertility. In mythology, the fig is said to be sacred to Bacchus, though it was also used in ceremonies to honor Dionysus. The fig itself represents longevity, happiness, and good luck in several cultures, the very attributes that the evil eye seeks to destroy. There is another one, the monopantia. It doesn't have an image, so if you extend your thumb, index, and middle fingers while keeping the ring and little fingers tucked in, you get the monopantia. It is once a sign of benediction and a gesture to ward away the evil eye. It predates Christianity, but some Christians believe that it represents the Holy Trinity and often relegated to a priestly blessing reserved for clerics and other religious. In ancient Egypt, it was known as two fingers and may have represented Isis and Osiris, with the thumb signifying their child. In Italian folk magic, the monopantia is most frequently used to bestow a blessing on a newborn, an infant, or a child, but the blessing is one of protection, not prosperity. The Holy Trinity is invoked. Jesus, the Virgin Mary, and Saint Joseph are invoked, along with other saints, and the prayer is uttered to keep negative forces at bay and to turn away las cosas brutas, or ugly things. And there was one more. So this is the red string in Italian folk tradition, because I believe the original tradition is Jewish. But the red string in Italian folk customs is that it utilizes a red ribbon or string, which is usually tied in a bow or knot and then pinned to the inside of a child's shirt. This is generally done before an infant's baptism, but many Italian Americans continued the tradition well into adulthood. Women pin a red ribbon to their bras and men to the inside of their blazers and coats, which is also for protection. And then there's saint medals that you can use if you have a preference for a specific saint, and these can often be paired together. You can mix and match and pair however you see fit. But this is, a tradition that I grew up with. This is, yeah, I feel like it's just part of who I grew up as. It was very common in my family. It was really funny because no one could ever really explain it to me. Maybe they just didn't want to. But if probably a lot of Italian Americans or Italian Canadians grew up with very similar experiences. Maybe not, because some people just think it's a bunch of hooey and it's just a silly tradition, and other people are like, oh no, 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 it is a thing. I don't think my cousins really grew up with it. Um, I don't think I've ever heard my uncle mention it. My aunt was Irish, French, Canadian. It may be a little bit Italian. I don't remember. So she really wouldn't know it, but it is, it's one of those things where, yeah, and I just grew up with it. This to me is normal. What do you mean you don't know what it is? So yeah, so I hope you found this interesting, and I hope it's helpful, and I hope, if it taught you something, or at the very least, maybe brought back maybe some happy memories. I would say don't worry about this. Don't fret about it. Don't hyper focus on it, because when you hyper focus on it, you draw it to you. Just accept it for what it is. You know how to protect yourself. You know how to clear it. You may have other methods that you've gotten from your own family. Do that. Protect yourself. Take care of yourself, and you'll be fine. I know some people, the way it's just part of everyday life, I guess. We just have maybe better methods than most coping. All right, my friends, I will see you again soon. Take care. Bye.